Hello everyone, this is Dr. Ranju Singhal in continuation with the PPT of Lesson 5, Democratic Resurgence. As I told you that this lesson I have divided in 3 PPTs, in 3 videos, and the first one we have finished and now we are at second one. In this video, I'll discuss with you national emergency. Here is content before you. First 3 nation leaders we have just gone through, and here I'm going to start with national emergency. As you know very well, this PPT is based on latest syllabus suggested by CBSE Board, and the material is also provided by CBSE Board and your NCERT book. National emergency, a very important topic. And first of all, we should know or we should discuss about emergency. What is a state of emergency? A state of emergency is a situation in which a government is empowered to perform action or impose policies that would normally not be permitted to undertake. When the government which is going to imply this emergency, what it can do, it can impose the policies which it cannot permit normally. That is the situation of emergency. And when a government can declare emergency? A government can declare such a state during a natural disaster. When there is natural disaster, any earthquake and drought, etc., civil unrest, armed conflict, some other country attacked a country and there is internal conflicts also, medical pandemic or epidemic or other biosecurity risks. In all these situations, a government can declare emergency. So, first of all, let us know emergency was declared in our country. So, what was the background of emergency? What was the scene behind it? What was the situation that emergency was declared in our country? So, it was so. Since 1967, Indira Gandhi has emerged as a towering leader with tremendous popularity. She was a very, very popular leader. This was also the period in India when party competition became bitter and polarized. This period also witnessed tensions in the relationship between the government and the judiciary. This is the background of emergency. The Supreme Court found many initiatives of the government to be violative of the Constitution. Supreme Court, that is a part of judiciary, the Supreme Court, it found many initiatives of government which it thought was violative. of the Constitution. They were not according to the Constitution on the articles of the Constitution. That is why Supreme Court was observing this also. The Congress party took the position that the stand of Supreme Court was against principles of democracy and parliamentary supremacy. When Supreme Court went against the government for some reasons, then Congress party took the position that the stand of Supreme Court was against principles of democracy. That Supreme Court was behaving against democracy, and that case Parliament is not supreme. So that is why that was thought was considered by Congress. Why we are calling Congress? Because that time the government was of Congress. And the other parties opposed to Congress felt that politics was becoming too personalized and the government authorities was being converted into personal authority. There were some opposition parties also, but they were not so prominent. But they gave their views, what they thought, that politics was becoming too personalized and that government authority was being converted into personal authority. That was background of the emergency. The split in the Congress has sharpened the divisions between Indira Gandhi and her opponents. That you went through in the last chapter, O and A syndicates. So that was inside the Congress party only. That was split in the Congress. So that was also reason. And in the same background, we can say that what was economic context of the emergency. In 1971 elections, Congress Garibi Hatao slogan. Indira Gandhi gave the slogan Garibi Hatao. Bangladesh crisis was there. The international market, low industrial growth and unemployment, failure of monsoon in 1972-73. These were all economic reasons. And emergence of strong Marxist, Leninist groups in West Bengal. That was also a big reason. And what other reasons? Gujarat and Bihar movements, conflict with judiciary, and then comes declaration of emergency. These dates you should mention on a piece of paper. On 12th June 1975, the Allahabad court passed a judgment declaring Indira Gandhi's elections to the Lok Sabha invalid. In 1975, on 12th June, Allahabad court passed a judgment. What was the judgment? It said that Indira Gandhi's election to the Lok Sabha was invalid. This order came on an election petition filed by Raj Narayan, a socialist leader and candidate who had contested against her in 1971. So that's application, we can say this petition was filed by Raj Narayan. He was a socialist leader, or he was a candidate who has contested election against Indira Gandhi in the year 1971. In response to Raj Narayan's petition, on 25th June 1975, the government declared emergency. And we know very well that was something very important thing. Otherwise, we always need president's signatures on it. But that was a very, very important one. And you know who signed this proclamation? Obviously, President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, who was acting president that time. So when 25th of June 1975, emergency was declared by Congress government who was ruling India. This was newspaper clips. Times of India, state of emergency declared, like जयप्रकाश नारायण और कई नेता गिरफ्तार, Mrs. Gandhi defeated, because Mrs. Gandhi filed this, or we can say, declared emergency because Mr. Raj Narayan was against him. He filed petition. Look, emergency was there for total 21 months, a long period. So what were the consequences of emergency? The proclamation of emergency in 1975 had far-reaching consequences and affected every phase of life. Obviously, a long period it was. The people were not provided so many their basic, we can say, basic rights were not there. Often known as the darkest phase of Indian politics history, the emergency remained intact for 21 months and changed the dynamics of the country's political system. Right? This brought the agitation. The people got agitated along with all the opposition parties. Strikes were banned. No one could strike for anything. Suspension of the freedom of the press and newspaper. And that is another thing. Freedom of press and newspaper was suspended because press was censored now. No newspaper or press could release any news without censor. And the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, that is RSS, and Jamaat-e-Islami were banned. Several fundamental rights stood suspended. I told you just now, several fundamental rights also suspended. Government made extensive use of preventive detention. What is preventive detention? If police sees that someone is going to do, only on doubt, they can put anyone into jail to prevent the crime, to stop the crime. That was preventive detention, and its use was made extensively, very much use of this preventive detention. Many new changes in the constitution were brought by parliament. As you have gone through in class 11, that this period saw the most of the changes in the constitution. As the 42nd Amendment was also passed during national emergency. This period saw so many amendments. Whatever government wanted, did. On March 21st, 1977, the emergency ended. See? Controversies regarding emergency. As we can see, national emergency is one of the most controversial episodes in Indian politics, much talked about. The question arises, was the emergency necessary? The Indian Constitution described internal disturbance as the reason to declare emergency. Because whenever we talk about emergency, then Indian Constitution say that it was internal disturbance, that is why emergency was declared. But it was not so. Nothing was like this. And before 1979, emergency was never proclaimed on this ground. This was not the situation in our country. There was no internal disturbance. There were another reasons of declaration of this emergency. So what happened during emergency? Critics point out that India ceased to be democratic during the emergency. But the fact remains that democratic functioning resumed within a short span of time. What the critics say about this emergency? They say that our country was not democratic anymore during this period. But during emergency, there was democratic condition in our country. Democracy was functioning. Democracy resumed. Democracy was missing for some time because of our fundamental rights were snatched, preventive detention was there, and some of the, as we have seen, some political or some institutions were banned. Still, after that, democracy was strengthened, we can say. People came to know about the importance of democracy, what we have in during emergency, the hard time. After that, the people of India became more conscious about democracy. As the investigation by the Shah Commission after the emergency found out, there were many excesses committed during the emergency. Obviously, when investigations are done, then all the bad things come in highlighted. So that Shah Commission, which was given the duty, or we can say which was given this task to find out, to investigate about the emergency, what it said, that there were many excesses committed during the emergency. But as I told you, lessons of emergency were great. The emergency at once brought out both the weaknesses and the strength of the India's democracy. I know. Democracy strengthened in India. It taught many lessons. Like now we are after democracy. We will never do away with democracy. To proclaim emergency, the advice of President in writing is necessary. If there will be emergency in future, then President has to give it in written. Not signatures are not enough. It made everyone more aware of the value of civil liberties. As some of the civil liberties were taken away, snatched during that time, press liberty was not there. We were not free to some extent. So, it made everyone more aware of the value of civil liberties. So guys, this was all about national emergency, which was proclaimed in 1977, which was proclaimed in 1975, 23rd, 5th of June, right? And we were freed from emergency in 1977. So it was all about national emergency. You can go through more in detail in your textbook, because this topic was there already. The same content is there about emergency. Okay. Questions regarding this we will do in the next video. And if you like my video, please do subscribe my channel, like it and share it with your friends. Thank you so much. Take care. All the best.